Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of CTS Biz Talk. I'm your usual host, Frank Stevens. Today, I brought Anthony on my team. Hey, Anthony, how's it going?
Hey, Frank, doing good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Doing well. So, today's topic, we are going to be talking about the risks of storing company data on your local computers. So I've been telling the entire tech team, hey, we're looking for new content, more relevant for our end users and our clients. And I heard the story with Anthony recently, wanted to bring him in. So Anthony, why don't you talk a little bit about what happened with the client? Let's not mention any names, and just give a brief overview of what happened. And let's talk about how people could be solving this issue moving forward.
Recently ran into this issue with one of our clients, who actually called the our main helpline and was just inquiring about some assistance for an issue he had where his hard drive completely failed. Complete hard drive failure. Usually, when you run into something like that, the best thing to do is recover as much stuff from backups that are already in place. Um, Fortunately for this user, there were no backups in place on his local computer, which is where the data and was being stored, where the failed hard drive was affecting the data the most. So unfortunately, with this, there wasn't much we could do in the way of recovery. He did have um, one folder that was being backed up, which did store a lot of the critical data that
Hmm.
he needed to function, but there were other areas in his computer, his documents, folders on his desktop, even some of his downloads that he wanted to be able to access. Because there were no backups in place, it was stored in his local computer. There wasn't much we could do for him. So yeah, that was a tough situation. Yeah, thoughts on that, Frank?
Yeah, my thoughts is, and we've been telling clients this all the time. You should never, ever, ever store data that you care about on your local computer. I don't care if it's in your My Documents, your desktop, downloads, or wherever the heck it is. Users should always be storing their data, their company data, in a repository that is being backed up from a centralized perspective. So either an on-premise server or SharePoint with OneDrive or something like that. So this is something that we preach to all of our clients. This guy, call it, he went rogue and he was not listening to best practices or advice. So, it's unfortunate for him, but I mean, there's a couple options if that does happen. We can't always send out the drive essentially to get recovered. Typical timeline on if it's a single hard drive, typically you get the data back in like a week or 2 weeks. Ballpark costs are somewhere between 300 and up to maybe $1,000, and how either damaged the drive is, or if there was encryption on the drive, or whatever it may be. So first lesson of the day: never store data that you care about on your local machine. So if you do have to, like, in fact, I do, like, I actually do store some of my personal stuff on my work laptop, my desktop, just because of ease of access, what have you. So there are options for that. And you want to talk about those options? Like, what are we seeing with other clients that they're doing?
Yeah, other clients, they also have like their own set of guidelines and best practices for what you just mentioned, storing or accessing that company data on their personal computers. A lot of the times that company policy is to not do it at all, believe it or not, to try to avoid that and restrict that access to the, you know, laptops and not a personal laptop.
Hmm.
But if you do have to do that, I think something that's overlooked is just you know thinking about whether or not you're practicing good security hygiene on that system. Just in general, making sure that you're not using you're not accessing that data over an insecure network. You're only
Hmm.
doing it on your home networks, or if you are in an insecure network, you're using a VPN of some sorts. You're using a hotspot of some sort that you trust. Do you have a dedicated, antivirus solution on that system? Microsoft Defender, Windows Defender, it gets the job done, but sometimes it can overlook some of these new and more advanced attacks that we're seeing come in. So that's one thing to definitely consider. Um, but again, if you do have to be accessing and taking a look at this personal data or company data on a personal system, definitely making sure you're using OneDrive. You know, OneDrive is built into a lot of Microsoft licenses, if not all of them, and just making sure that you're using that. I think there's 2 terabytes to start with of data that you could be backing up. So in the event that a system does go down, you know, you
Mhm.
just sign into OneDrive, you recover all those files, and you're good to go.
Okay. Yeah, that, and I'm glad you brought that up because most of our clients completely overlook that with, either Microsoft Business Standard or Premium, or an E3 or E3 or E5 license. OneDrive backup is included, and it's super easy to use. That's essentially what I use as well. It just works, right? You launch OneDrive, it's like, hey, I see you've got your standard, folders, desktop, my documents, favorites, downloads, whatever you want, pictures, and automatically backing it up. And it's something that is just totally on the back end, and it works pretty well. So I've had a couple clients use, Dropbox, and again, we're solution agnostic. There's tons of options out there. What I tell people though is like, hey, we've had clients say, well, I could get, Carbonite for $2.99 a month. Like, yeah, cool, but like, I don't know. Like, it is absolutely, it is a consumer grade product. It is not considered business class. I, you know, it's best case if you can restore data. And I know everyone's like, oh no, you're just trying to upsell me or something. Like, I've seen it where you go to restore something with Carbonite. It's like, yeah, we don't have it. It's like, all right, cool. So, you move on. Um, what else are you seeing, or what other tricks or things should users be concerned about to ensure that they're not storing corporate or even personal important documents or files or photos or anything on their main machine? Are there any other options you can think of?
As far as other options, I'd say just trying to join that system to your company's domain if possible. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen that with some of our clients, you know, they have a remote, you know, work environment strictly that they're operating in, you know, for their position at their job.
Mm-hmm.
And in that situation, making sure, just like any other computer in the office, that your system is joined to the domain. That way, you can just, you know, click and drag. If your company is using on-prem servers, you can click and drag, or the same way for you know, OneDrive mapping SharePoint to your file explorer. You can simply just drag the files that you want saved and backed up, you know, onto those server drives, onto
Mm-hmm.
those SharePoint sites that are on your local computer, mapped to the file explorer. So I think that's another thing. I recently ran into that with a client where they had not been joined to the domain. Everything that they did was through like a remote terminal server, so they
Yeah.
weren't able to like save the work that they were doing on their local computer. They had to like email themselves files, and it was just very convoluted, you know, solution that they had. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you have a domain at your organization, make sure you're connected to it. That's a big one.
Yeah. And to piggyback off that, the other benefit is if a machine is joined to a domain, whether it's Azure cloud based, or if it is on premise with a Microsoft Active Directory domain, either one of those, we could be pushing out stuff automatically. And what I mean by that is, if it's on premise, you can have what's called GPO or group policy objects that'll force the installation of our cybersecurity stack. So it's making sure you're getting your EDR, your endpoint detection response. It's making sure you get virus scanned. It's You could run patch management scripts and ensure that the machine is getting its current urgent and security updates, critical updates. And it's the same with on the Microsoft Azure domain. You've got Microsoft Intune that'll ensure that the machine is fully protected and the appropriate corporate structure and applications are installed properly. So, yeah, that's a good point to add that. So, awesome. Well, very cool, Anthony. I appreciate your time today. Good words of wisdom and good knowledge nuggets for all the people out there. So, thank you much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Frank. I appreciate you getting me on here. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Awesome, man. All right. If you guys have enjoyed this, you got anything out of it, please like, subscribe, and share out. Have a great one. Take care, everyone. Thanks. Bye.